can have this after the fact, and um, also let you guys know that on, I believe it is April 11th, next Saturday, we're going to be doing a drawing workshop with Chris Clamp. So if you've got some pencils and paper, I'm sure most of you do, please check it out. And with that, I will turn it over to Laurie and make her the host, and we can keep going. Let's see if I can find Laurie. Okay.
All right, I am the host now. All right, so I'm going to make my video dominant. But at any time, I think if you select gallery view, you can always see the whole grid of everybody. So you can choose whether to see me giant or see the whole grid and see me in there. I'm also, if everybody sees my phone here, I'm going to be switching back and forth from camera view to phone view so that you'll be able to see what I'm working on the table. All right, so while we're trying this experiment of you guys with microphones on and off, why don't everybody mute yourself right now so that when I'm talking, we don't have too much ambient noise. And then when I say, okay, now everybody, you're gonna do this, then you can unmute and you can chat if you wanna say anything, okay? Does that work for everybody? Thumbs up? Terrific. All right, I am gonna start off. First of all, hi everybody, my name is Laurie Smithwick. Thank you so much for opting to spend your Saturday afternoon with me. It's a gorgeous one out there, so I can appreciate that choosing to be inside today may not have been your first choice, but I am glad you're here. And we're gonna make some really cool art to pay you back for giving me your time. What we are doing today is a gelatin monotype printmaking class. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means so that you have a little bit of background. So everybody in your box, you should all have received a square gel plate. So go ahead and take it out of your box. And if it's got plastic on either side of it, go ahead and peel the plastic off and you can put those aside. You don't need those for the rest of the day. All right. Your plate looks different from mine because yours is unused and clear and mine is very used and not clear anymore. There's no difference between yours and mine. Mine just has, these plates have oil, have like mineral oil in them. And so some of the ink that we use doesn't always come out. And so the more you use your plate, the more colored like that it's gonna get. But it's not a problem. That doesn't mean anything. So if you, after this class, you decide to go out and buy your own plate, when yours starts to look like this, know that that's just because you're making a lot of art. So it's a badge of honor when your plate starts to get discolored. So what a gel plate, what is amazing about these is that they brought printmaking into the realm of things that people like you and I could do at home on our dining table. All right. Before that, printmaking was a sort of exclusive form of art that could only be done by people who had access to wood blocks, carving tools, linoleum blocks and carving tools, metal sheets and the acid that eats away at those, and most importantly, a press. If you've ever seen a press for printmaking, what it is it's a giant thing that has a big roller in it like this, okay, that's made of metal, and you lower it down on top of your printing plate and you squeeze down, you twist down weight, tons and tons of weight, in order to put enough pressure on the paper that you're using and the plate to give it full contact in order to transfer the ink from the plate onto your paper. It needs a ton of weight. That's the bottom line. With a gel plate, because the gel plate is flexible, right? So when you squeeze it, obviously like Jell-O, it actually bends. when you put paper down on the plate, when you ink your plate and then put the paper down and you press with your hand, because the plate has give, there's room for the paper to press down on the plate and make full contact with the plate and pick up the ink without need of a giant press. Okay, does that make sense? We get to do exactly the same thing that people were doing with etchings and linocuts and woodblock printing and lithographs, but just with a plate made out of gelatin. Now, the store-bought plates that you guys have are not actually made out of gelatin, but I have a recipe that enables you to make these plates at home. And I actually brought down a couple of my homemade plates just so you can see what the advantage is of making them at home. And that is that you can make your plates in different shapes. You can make your plates in different sizes. Can everybody see that these are two different size circles, right? Or you can make them like completely different, right? So what I have at home is an assortment of maybe, oh gosh, maybe 24 different plates that I've made of different sizes and different shapes, where I have used gelatin, literally Knox gelatin, as the base to pour into a mold like a baking sheet, my own plate. And then you can use that for as long as you want. And then when it gets a nick in it or something, you can melt it back down and pour it into a new mold, and you can just reuse it forever and ever and ever. Okay. So I will provide anybody, we'll give you my email at the end of the class today. Anybody who is interested in making their own plate, you are welcome to send me an email and I will send you the recipe and you can go crazy making your own plates. All right. But for now, we've got these store-bought plates, which are absolutely terrific starting plates. In addition, I'm going to go over some of this, all the materials that you got in your box that are relevant to us. Okay. So I already mentioned this. This is called a brayer. All right. Not a roller. Roller is fine, but brayer is the official term. And it is used to roll ink onto your plate. All right. So everybody, take this out of the bag, whatever you need to do to have this ready. And so it's just basically a smooth rubber roller on an axle that enables you to roll ink out. All right. In addition, you got a lot of cups of ink. Okay. So what we have provided you with is red, blue, and yellow, which are the primary colors. And everybody probably knows, but just in case, I'm going to review with you, by using these 3 colors, you can make 3 additional colors, which are the secondary colors, right? So red and yellow make orange, right? Red and blue make purple, and blue and yellow make green. So with these 3 cups, you've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, okay? And then we've also given you black and white, which make things lighter and darker, okay? You can also use these on your own. And then for a little pizzazz, we've given you gold, just because gold is fun. Now, one of the things that we've learned as we've done a couple of these classes is that the blue ink, and maybe in some cases the black ink, is a little bit on the thick side. And what happens when the ink is a little bit too thick is it doesn't stick to the plate quite as well as we need it to. So what I want to recommend is, actually right now is a great time to do it, or you can do it when we all sort of, start working, is I would love for everybody to have either a spray bottle of water if you've got one, or a cup of water that you can dip your paper towels into, okay? And what I'm gonna have everybody do is, if your blue, like open up your blue and your yellow, or your blue and your red, and if your blue seems to be much thicker than your other one, I want you to put a couple of drops of water in your blue and use one of the knives that came in your set, which we're using as stirrers and also scoopers. Use one of your knives and just stir the water into your blue. All right, and that's going to help us in as the class goes on, because in the last class we had the case where the blue wasn't actually adhering to the plate, but water is the key to getting it to adhere. If that happens to you, don't freak out. We can fix it. All we need to do is add a little bit of water to your plate or to your ink, all right? But if you go ahead and right now and add a little water to your blue, then that may prevent that problem from happening. You don't want it to be too loose. You still want it to be sort of thick like ink, right? Like use your yellow as a gauge, because I think the yellow is the loosest of all the inks, or the white maybe, I'm not sure. But these all came from tubes or tubs that are different, you know, ages, what came to us from the internet. And so you want it to be a little thick. Here, I'm going to show you what mine looks like. So here's my gold. I mean, it's pretty thick, but the blue was almost dry feeling. And so, and none of these, it won't hurt to put water in any of these. So you just don't want it to be loose like water. You still want it to feel thick like ink. Everybody good with that? Great. Okay, so we've gotten plates, we've gotten brayer, we've gotten inks. I want to tell you something about your life moving forward with these gelatin plates that you have. We have given you these printmaking inks, okay? Here's a big tub of the ink that you've got. It comes from Dick Blick, which is the #1 online source for art supplies, if y'all aren't already familiar with it. And these tubs are 16 ounces. This is what I have. I have you know, a couple of dozen of these in all different colors. And I like to use block printing ink when I do gel printing, especially with my homemade plates, because block printing ink is goopier and stays wet longer. So you don't have to rush after you've inked your plate. You don't have to rush to pull your print. But with these store-bought plates that you guys have, I want to teach you a secret, which is that very, very inexpensive craft paints that you can get at Walmart or Target or Michael's, or any acrylic paint that you may have, works great on these gel plates. Just know that it dries a little bit faster than the ink we're going to work with today. So you have to move a little more quickly. You can't, like what we're doing today, you can ink the plate and then I can go, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you something. Everybody stop, and we can talk for a few minutes and the ink stays wet. With these paints, you can't do that. But they work great and they're super inexpensive, right? I mean, I think these little bottles of 2 ounces of paint cost like less than $1 each, maybe. So I just want you to know that when you use up the ink in your cups, you don't have to go out and buy printmaking ink. You can go out and buy inexpensive acrylic, or if you have acrylic in your house already, you're good to go. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the paper that you got in your box. I have long since used up most of the paper that came in my original. So Alice, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think what everybody got is some white copy paper, some blue thicker copy paper, some newsprint, and some sheets of printmaking paper. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
Okay, so your printmaking paper, that's the one you're going to use when you are ready to start making something that looks like art. Like when you go, oh yeah, this one is feeling really good, I'm excited about how this one's going to turn out, that's what you use your printmaking paper for. All other prints, if you're just thinking, I'm just going to do a test print, just use copy paper for those. It works just fine. And I make prints on copy paper all the time. So you can use your blue, you can use your white. You don't necessarily want to use the newsprint because it's just going to get saturated so quickly you won't be able to do many layers, but it's going to provide nice color. So if you want to, you can use your newsprint too. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to use all those other papers, the copy paper, the blue paper, and the newsprint, to make masks and stencils. Okay, so so that will be what that is all used for. So you'll use your different papers, but I just wanted to explain why we gave you so many. Okay, last but not least, I am going to share my screen And then I'm gonna stop talking and we're gonna start making art. Doesn't that sound like more fun than listening to me talk nonstop? It does to me. Okay, I'm pulling my grid over here so I can see you all. Okay, so can everybody now see my hand and my print, my jelly plate?
Yes.
Give me a nod if you can see my plate. Great. All right, perfect. So these marks are not for you. You don't need that. That's just for me so that when I set up my camera, if I pick up my plate, as you've already seen me do a bunch of times, I know where to put it so that it's right in the middle of my camera view. But you don't need these. These are just for me. But what I am going to ask you to do is create something that we're going to call our registration sheet. We're going to do this right off the bat. So I'm holding it up to the screen. It's just one of my white pieces of copy paper. Now I'm holding it here. What I want you to do is I want you to pick up your plate. Oh, wait, stop. See, I told you I would do this. Before anything else, I want to say one more important thing. You are going to get some of this ink on your work surface. So if you are not on a work surface that you, sorry, let me start that differently. If you are on a work surface that you don't want to get paint on, go ahead now and get something to put under your work that you don't mind getting paint on. This paint is very, very water soluble, this ink, and so it washes off really well. But like my old farmhouse table, I don't want to risk getting ink stuck in it, so I work on this cutting mat.
And Laurie,
oh, yeah.
everybody should have like a piece of plastic or something in their box that you can put down.
Excellent. And then another thing that works really well is I love buying inexpensive placemats from like Walmart. I have a huge stack of these and I keep my plates on these a lot of times. So those work really nicely in that way too. But yeah, definitely put something under because you're going to get a little bit of ink on your surface. And while this ink is very water soluble, I don't want you to, send me a bill for your grandmother's antique dining table that now has permanent ink stains on it. All right, what we're gonna do with this piece of paper, back to the schedule, we're gonna use this paper and what we're gonna call it is our registration paper, okay? So this paper, I want you to set this down and I want you to put your gel plate on top of that piece of paper and that's not gonna go away the whole day, all right? And let me explain to you how we're going to use that. One of the things we're going to do today is we are going to be making some prints that are multiple layers. And when we do that, we want to be able to hit our registration so that when you ink your paper and then take it away and then ink your paper again, I want you to be able to put your paper back in the exact same spot so that you hit your hit right. So I'm going to show you, this is one that I made in our last class. So you see how there are multiple layers here? So there's black, there's red, and there's gold. But you see that more or less, everything hit in more or less the same spot. That's because by using this registration, what that means is that every time you lay paper down, you are going to take your printing paper and you're going to square it with the corners that are on the table, and you're going to print from the same spot every time. Does that make sense? And this will work even if your copy paper is smaller than your printmaking paper. It doesn't matter. You can still, I'm getting one that's bigger just to show you. So this is a bigger piece of paper. You can still use that same corner to square off and it just will be off-centered, or you can move your plate as you need to. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so that's gonna make that a lot easier for you to be able to to be able to match up your layered prints, which we're gonna do. And with that last explanation, who's ready to make a print? All right, what we're gonna do for our very first print is we're just gonna make a really simple, plain print. And that is because I want you to learn right off the bat how easy this is and how foolproof this is. And that even though you think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this as well as she does, you're wrong. And right off the bat, you're going to be a professional printmaker. So we are going to make a very clean, simple, one layer, solid paint, no masks, no stencils print. and pull that. So what I want you to do is I want you to take one of your knives, okay? And I want you to pick whatever color you want. And we are going to pull a print using one of our colors. So I'm gonna do blue. All right, again, my blue is almost empty, so I'm gonna go ahead and just use it from here. But what I want you to do is take your blue and scoop out. I'm gonna show you about how much I want you to scoop out. I want you to scoop out about this much of your ink. Can you guys see that? It's not very much, okay? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna, using your knife, you're gonna dot the ink on your gel plate, just like that, okay? And then take your knife and you can take your knife and you can, you know, rub the knife on the plate to get all the ink off, put your lid back on, and then what I like to do is set the knife on that color so that that knife is now designated that color, and then you don't mix your colors by accident, okay? Everybody take your brayer, and what you're gonna do is you're going to roll the ink out on your plate, and I'm gonna show you roughly how hard you wanna roll. You'll be able to feel it. You don't roll, you don't just like that, you actually wanna press a little bit. Can everybody see like how I'm pressing it into my hand? So you wanna put a little bit of pressure on there and roll out the ink. And you just want the ink to cover your plate, but it should be a thin layer. Can everybody see how mine is still sort of translucent? I'm gonna zoom in. So see, like there, you see that looks like there's not ink, but there actually is ink. So you want it to be, whoops, you want it to be, that's an example of how you are going to get ink on your surface. So you want it to be, and that did the thing that we were talking about how the blue is sort of pulling off the plate. So I'm gonna spray a tiny little bit of water on there. And then that'll enable me to get the blue on there a little better. All right. And then another thing I want everybody to do is take another one of your sheets of paper. I'm gonna show you mine that's already used. And you're gonna use this as your brayer cleaner paper. So take one of your blank sheets, and what you're gonna do with that is you're gonna just roll your brayer off onto that sheet of paper. And the idea is you wanna keep the ink from drying too much on your brayer. So this won't take all of the ink off, but it'll take a lot of it off, and just roll it out like that to keep your brayer as clean as possible. And you're gonna do that every time you roll it out, which should keep you from having to go to the sink and wash this off. All right, is everybody with me? So now that you've rolled ink out on your plate, is anybody having the problem where the brayer is pulling the ink off the plate? No, fantastic. All right, so now that you've got the ink on the plate, you're gonna take one of your pieces of copy paper. I want you to line it up with the corners of your registration paper, and then just decisively drop it down. Don't lift it up a second time. Once it's down, it's down. If you missed your registration, don't sweat it. The beauty of printmaking is that it is an organic, imperfect art. And a lot of times, you know, the mistakes you make, quote unquote mistakes, are what turn into the things that look great. But your goal is to just set the paper down decisively. And then once you lay it down, you're gonna rub it gently. All right, so can you, everybody see my fingers? You don't need to rub it so hard that your fingers turn white like that. Can everybody see that? You're basically rubbing it just enough to make a little bit of an indentation on the paper. And just transfer that ink up to the paper. Once you've got it rubbed where you think you've touched all parts of it, okay, you're going to slowly peel your paper up off the plate, and everybody's going to hold up to the screen their print to show me what they did. Look at that! Printmakers, all of you. They look terrific. Good, so now what I want you to do is I want you to look at yours and I want you to look at mine at the same time. And I want you to see that yours probably look almost exactly like mine. Would everybody agree with that? with the exception of the organic changes that happen naturally. That's what you get with this art form. That's what makes it so fun, is that you do the things that I tell you to do today, and you're going to be making great art. The organic nature of this, the fact that it doesn't cover perfectly in all spots, the fact that you can see lines from where your brayer edge was, that it's darker in some spots and lighter in some spots, that's what I love about this art form, is that it is imperfect and organic, and you use that to work with. If you want perfection, go grab some oil paints, right? If you want a cool, organic, unusual looking thing, that's printmaking. Now, here's the bonus round. What's neat about this process is that with every time you roll out your plate, you actually get more than one print. So what I want everybody to do is take another piece of your copy paper and lay this down on your registration page, and I want you to pull a second print, just like you did the first one. This print that we're pulling is called the ghost print. That's the actual term in printmaking, which is super fun, right? Who doesn't want to make ghosts? And what happens is that when you ink your plate and pull ink off the plate with your paper, even though it looks like your plate is clean, it's not. There's always going to be a little bit of residual ink, sometimes a lot of residual ink, sometimes a little residual ink. You never know, it's a surprise. Again, that's the beauty of printmaking. So we're all gonna rub, 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 just like we did our first one. And then when you're ready, I want you to pull your print, and everybody should have something that looks like some variation on this. If you have a perfectly clean sheet of paper, then that will happen less and less as this goes on, because as your plate gets used, it's going to hold more ink onto the plate. But hopefully everybody has at least one little mark on their ghost print. And that is something, what I love about this is that every time you make a print using this method, you get at least 2 prints. And I think we can all agree that either one of these is going to be a good base for something else interesting, right? Both the initial print and the ghost print. And like I said, if yours didn't give you as much coverage as mine did, don't worry about it. You didn't do anything wrong. You've got a brand new plate. I have a very much used plate. And as we work today, we're going to do a couple of exercises that really utilize the concept of ghost prints in an interesting way. So you will see ghost print results. But for right now, everybody has pulled a print. So what I want you to do is everybody unmute yourself, and let's give ourselves a quick round of applause.
Yay!
Bravo. So we're all printmakers. Now let's start making these interesting, okay? So you can set these aside. We're actually going to reuse these in a minute, but what I want you to do is set these aside, and we're going to create something using masks and stencils. All right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and explain to you the difference between masks and stencils, but it's a lot of words for something that's actually a lot easier to understand in action than with me talking and talking and talking. So I'm going to explain it. It may make sense to you. It may not make sense to you. Don't worry. By the time we get to the end, it will make sense to you. So what we're going to do next is we're going to ink our plates. Don't do it yet. Wait till I tell you. We're going to ink our plates. But before that, what I'm going to have everybody do is take one of your sheets of paper. This is a good use for your for the newsprint that you have, and we are going to cut shapes out of this paper. Okay, so you can do that any way you want. You can take a pen and draw some shapes and then cut them out. You can just go crazy and cut freeform. Right? If you look at the work that I'm doing, I really prefer freeform. I mean, like these are just random pieces of cut paper. All right. And what I want you to do is I want you to cut out some solid shapes. Okay. When you do that, you're also going to make holes in this sheet of paper. The difference between the two is that the solid shape is a mask and the hole is a stencil. Okay. The mask, when you put a mask down on your plate, it's going to create a hole in your print. And when you put a stencil down on your plate, it's going to create a solid on your print. Does that make sense? So a solid creates a hole and a hole creates a solid. And that's how you use the two. What we're going to do first is we're going to make a mask. And I want you guys to so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a mask and we're going to make holes in our print. So whatever you cut out of your paper, just make sure it's small enough that it leaves some of your plate still showing even after we put it down on the plate. Okay, so cut all this out, and you're not going to put it on your plate right now yet, but you can lay it down on your plate to test it, to see how it looks, right? So like if I cut out this shape right here. Okay, I might want to lay it down and say, okay, that looks interesting to go off the edge, right? And then what that's going to leave me with is maybe I'm going to want something that comes out of there. So maybe I'll tear a piece for that and have that come out of there like this. And you can use, you can lay stuff down on the plate to sort of get your feel for what you're trying to do, or not. It can also be a total surprise to you. It's completely up to you, whatever you want to do with it. All right, and when you've got enough pieces as masks, then we're going to go ahead and make another print. And we're going to do exactly what we did the last time, except that after you've got your plate inked, you're then going to lay these masks down on top of your plate. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, and if you want to, you're welcome to turn off your, to unmute yourselves, and we can chat during this part because everybody's going to be moving at a slightly different pace. And I want anybody who has questions to be able to ask me questions or tell me about what they're doing, or, whatever you want, or not. If you don't want to unmute yourself, that's cool too. I just hate for y'all to have to sit and listen to me talk nonstop the whole 2 hours. It's a lot. And the beauty of this also, I will tell you, is ever since I started doing this form of printmaking, is I have become a hoarder of like junk mail, because any paper works as masks. And so I hate to use a blank sheet of paper like this when, a piece of junk mail works just as well. In fact, the piece of paper that I'm using as my brayer cleaner is actually a letter from, one of the colleges my kid applied to. And so that's what I'm using as my brayer cleaner. But you can use any paper for this mask making and stencil making as well. All right.
Probably not the college your kid got accepted to, right?
It actually is a college she got accepted to, but it's one that's really expensive. And so this is like from a trustee at the college saying, yeah, I know this school is really expensive, but we still want you to come. But weirdly, he's not offering me any money.
Oh, well.
I don't know. Go figure. Yeah. We're in the throes. I actually have twins. My daughters are twins, twin seniors in high school. And so we're going through at the same time the loss of their senior year and the acceptances and rejections from colleges, which is exciting and also a little nerve-wracking all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry they're missing their senior year. That's crushing.
It is really crushing. It's heartbreaking, and they're sad about some of the tiniest little things. Like at their school, the seniors all they paint tiles. They take ceiling tiles down from the classrooms that have meaning for them. So like one of my daughters is obsessed with science, and so she was going to do the chemistry classroom, and they get to take ceiling tiles and paint them and leave their mark on the school. And the school this year isn't going to have the class of 2020 leave its mark. But we're trying to make that work, actually. We're trying to create a situation where they give them tiles to take home. But
seems like the Zoom thing might work.
Yeah, definitely. And they are all connecting with each other a lot. All kids, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and ink my plate, assuming that y'all are sort of caught up with me. And just so you see how much stirring I have to do, this is, this ink really settles. And so you want to, if you do end up going out and getting these jars, you know, you just always have to keep them stirred up and mixed well. But remember, you don't ever want to put too much ink on your plate. If it's got too much ink, it ends up looking a little bit gloppy. And sometimes that's a look that you want. But for now, while we're learning, I want you to learn it the right way without using too much ink. And then later, you can choose to do it however you wish to. But I'm going to roll this out, roll out my red. And when I get it all smooth, I'm going to roll out on my brayer cleaner page.
I'm just not sticking to the brayer.
And then I'm going to take my masks and I'm going to start laying my masks out. So
You can use some of mine.
do something like that. And so once again, the beauty of this process is that even as you're laying these out, you don't know what the final piece is going to look like. And I really love that aspect of printmaking, is that, you know, you may have a sense of what it's going to look like, but you do not know. One tip, if anybody is cutting out letters or anything that needs to read write, R-I-G-H-T, don't forget that this is a reverse printing process. And so like if you have cut out the letter R, you want to lay the letter R down backwards on your plate in order for it to print forwards. Does that make sense?
So what if the brayer's taking more paint off this time?
Okay, good. I'm so glad that's happened to somebody. Sorry it's happened to you. What I want you to do is I want you to take your water and put a little bit of water on your brayer. So like drip it or spray it if you have a sprayer. Put a little bit of water on your brayer and then try rolling it again and see if that improves it. How's that working? Is that better?
Yeah.
Great. And just use as much or as little water as you need to do that. And then when you feel like you've got your masks, I just keep adding pieces of paper while I'm sitting here. If you feel like you've got your masks all placed the way you want them, then it's time to take a sheet of paper. I want you all also to get in the habit of sort of inspecting your hands, because you get a lot of little pieces, little drops of ink on your hands. This stuff is so water soluble that it just comes right off with the tiniest little bit of water. I just want you to see. And I want you to keep your hands as clean as you can so that you don't accidentally get ink on an otherwise work of art that you go, dang it, you need to have a fingerprint there, right? So just keep your hands as clean as possible. There are gloves in everybody's box too. If you want to use gloves for the rolling and then take the gloves and the placing of masks and then take the gloves off, you can do that. But sometimes that's more of a pain in the neck than anything. But I'm also telling you that because I actually got a tiny little fingerprint of red ink on my piece of paper. So that's what reminded me. So when you're ready, we're going to take a sheet of paper. We're going to register it. And then we're going to decisively drop it down and massage the plate just like you did the last time. And since I'm using copy paper, you can see my masks through the paper here, right? And you just want to sort of make sure that you're getting all the edges and all the spaces in between the masks. You know, putting pressure on the masks themselves doesn't matter so much because no ink is going to go through there. So that's going to actually be a hole in your final print. All right. So as soon as you've got it all nicely massaged and feel like it's, you know, you've got as much coverage as you want, I'm going to have everybody slowly peel up your paper and reveal your print. Oh, looking good. Nice. Oh, everybody, see? Printmakers, all of you. These are looking terrific. I love all the abstract shapes you've created. Really, really nice. Yeah, those are looking great. So now when you've got that, set that print aside. okay? And what you can do is you can start pulling your masks off. And what I want to tell you is there's a tip, which is that I reuse my masks over and over and over again. I have like a tray up on my work table where I just lay these masks down on that tray with paint on them. And so there's a trick. If you just peel it off, actually I'll do it with this one. If you peel it off like that, never mind the rip, that's not my point. What that'll do, oh brother, is it'll curl up. You see how that piece of paper curled up like crazy? And it's hard to then lay it down on a table, right? Because it's all curled up. That's avoidable if you, instead of peeling it, if you pull it away from itself. So instead of that, with this one, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna just pull it. Does everybody see what I'm doing? And that one doesn't really curl. And so that enables you to lay that one down on your table, and it'll be easier to reuse. Okay. So after you've got all your masks peeled off, we are going to pull our ghost print.
Yeah, ghost print. Forgot about ghost print.
Yeah.
Get a ghost print off of this.
All right, so what you can do is you could do one of two things now. If you want to, you can take a new page, or what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my ghost print page from my first print, and I'm gonna pull the ghost print on this ghost print page. So now you get to see where this registration comes in really handy, is that now I'm going to register this. If you want to be really precise, then you want to remember which is top and which is bottom, because it may get mixed up. But again, precision is not the goal of printmaking. Not this form of printmaking. Organic, that's what we want. So you're gonna rub, and then I also want to show you, there's something else that's used a lot in the world of block printing, and that is a really fancy object called a wooden spoon, right? And you could even use a regular spoon, but a lot of printmakers take a wooden spoon and use that, because since this is sort of a simple tool, you can actually exert more pressure with the wooden spoon than you can with your hand. So just know that that's something out there that you can try if you want to. But then we're gonna go ahead and pull that print. And now we start to see where ghost prints can do some really cool things. How's everybody else doing ghost print wise? Yeah, some of these are, let's see. So yeah, some of them are working, some of them are not transferring a lot. And again, that's okay. What that tells me is that you're using a very small amount of ink for each one of your prints, which is what I told you to do. So you're a good rule follower. So don't worry about it. I promise you, we are going to have something happen a little bit later where you're going to make a really killer ghost print. Oh yeah, I can't see anybody's names for some reason, so I can't call you out personally, but you guy with the yellow, that looks really awesome. I like what you've got there. Yeah.
Laurie, that's Ron.
Ron, that looks terrific. I like that. How's everybody else feeling good? Okay.
Yeah.
So who wants to do a stencil now? All right. So what you also may have is, if you look at my plate, you'll see that I still have some ink on there. I can do one of three things at this point. I can pull another ghost print if I want to, okay, to try and get some more of that ink off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Or I can take my plate and wash it off, which you can do with your spray bottle and paper towel, or your cup of water and your paper towel, or you can take it to the sink and wash it off. It's totally up to you. Or you can just keep going. You can use the same color. Yeah, see, it didn't really pull anything off of there. You can use the same color. You can use a different color. You can use this as an opportunity to mix some colors. If you want to make one of the secondary colors like I was talking about, you know, blue and yellow is green, red and yellow is orange, et cetera, et cetera. You do that right on the plate by just putting two different colors of ink down. So maybe I'll do that. I've got red already, so I'll put a little bit more red on there with my knife. And I want you to, in the meantime, is while I'm doing this, is I want you to be cutting out some stencils, right? So some holes. And you can do that in a few ways. You can do it in a way that where you get one shape out of the sheet of paper like this, right? Like I could do, and it's gonna print here, and this is gonna print, and none of this is gonna print. Or you can do a few different, you can cut a few shapes out of one piece of paper, or you can do something where like you could take this and cut, like I could do something like this. I'll show you, where like I take that and then I lay this nearby and that becomes a stencil. Does that make sense what I did there? All right, so what I'm aiming for basically is for you to create holes on your plate this time instead of solids on your plate like we did with the masks. I'm here to answer questions if you have any questions.
We made it hard.
We paint.
Ideally, you'll do that before you put ink down on your plate. But if you've already put ink down on your plate, again, that's the beauty of using this printmaking ink, because it'll stay wet for a little while you're working. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you, if you want to look up for a second and look at my plate. I've got way too much on here. All right, so I did not obey my rules, but you'll see red and the yellow are blending, and I'll just show you how you can blend colors on your plate. You can do something like this and leave it like this, where you've got red, you've got yellow, or you can just keep rolling until it all blends together and you end up with actual orange. So you see, the more I roll on, the more orange it turns into. And then this is a good point to show you this. So I put way too much ink on. You see how, can everybody see on my brayer how it's kind of puckered on the brayer? That's because there's too much ink. What I can do is I can use my brayer cleaner paper, roll it off my brayer, actually clean the brayer, and then go back to my plate, and I can roll it, and it will pull some of the ink, so it's not quite so thick on your plate, on your print.
Hi, Laurie.
Yeah.
This is Carol. I had a quick question. I ended up with a secondary color last time because my brayer just wasn't clean.
Yeah.
Do you just wipe that down in between after?
A lot of times I'll do that. I'll take it and just run this under the sink. It comes up so quickly under the sink. And all you want to do when you wash your brayer off in the sink, this part will come off really fast. You need to get in there with your hand off these edges. It sort of sneaks over on edges, because when you come back, if you haven't done that and you roll, sometimes those edges catch and they get on the plate. But yeah, you can absolutely wash off your brayer in between every one. What I've done to mitigate that is I've actually brought tons of brayers to the table here. So I have a lot of clean brayers.
Okay.
But what I do upstairs is I mostly wash it off throughout the time that I'm working. Okay. And what I want you to do with this next one, if the colors work in your favor, okay, is I want you to pull the next print off of your very first print that you made, okay? So that would be, in my case, it would be this blue, right? And I just want you to see, because you're not going to get a lot with a mask, you're not going to get a ton of art on your plate, on your print. I want you to I mean, with your stencil, I do that constantly, by the way, sorry. And so this way you can see how using stencils begins to build up something interesting, okay? But if you've already done it and you've already pulled your print, don't sweat said it again, I'm not so much into rules. I just like to give it a try while we're sitting here working so that you're not wondering what to do. All right. All right. So let's see. I got to make some masks, some stencils like you.
I'm sorry, Mommy. I have you a very nice present. Good.
All right. So if everybody wants to look up, you can see this. I've got my sheet here with a whole bunch of holes, and I'm just going to lay this down on my already rolled out plate. All right. And then I'm going to take some of my cutouts, and I'm actually going to put some of the cutouts in here too, because that'll create some additional interesting shapes on there. All right. And then whenever you're ready, I'm going to register my print. I'm taking my original blue. I'm going to register it, lay it down, and start massaging. And then whenever you're ready, I'm pulling mine up, and there's what we get. Let me zoom out a little bit. There's what we get with stencils. Oh yeah, that's looking great. Oh man, y'all are killing it. You don't need me. Those look so good. Yeah. Right on, everybody. Way to go. So then take that, set it aside, and now you're going to pull your stencil page off and set that aside.
See, Mommy?
And then you can pull a ghost print.
That's the brayer.
And I'm going to keep going with this original ghost print. So this is my first blue ghost print with my second red ghost print. And I'm going to go ahead and do this orange now too. And just keep building up the thin layers on this sheet. And so everybody, here's what I've got now. That's now 3 ghost print layers on here. We originally had blue, then we had red, and then now we've got some orange.
I have to use my ghost print paper.
So another thing that I want you to think about is I'm gonna, let me try and find, okay, this is still works. So this is the print that I was working with in my class the other day, and you can't really see it, and that's sort of my point. But if you see these 3 shapes, okay, which were obviously masks, right, because they were solid, so they created holes. I actually laid these 3 shapes down going this way as well in the red layer. So the way this went is first a gold layer went down, then the red layer went down, then the black layer went down. And I want you to know that reusing your masks and stencils in multiple layers, placed down either in the same spot or different spots, can create some really, really dynamic looking art. So I want to encourage you to reuse your masks and stencils, just because that repeating of layers that are similar can often create some really interesting looking shapes. All right? Okay, so how's everybody doing? Are we ready to move on to the next thing, or are you still working with your stencils?
Fix myself some tea.
Good.
Good, ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play with texture. All right. And the neat thing about this process is that it's cumulative. So each new thing that we do is going to build on the last thing we did, right? Like hopefully you all understand how you can use masks and stencils together with one another, you know, so that they work together in interesting ways. And the same is true for textures. So what I want to do is I want to point out to you the 3 things I think that you received in your boxes that had textures in it, or that we included because of their texture making ability. One of the things you should have gotten is a piece of cardboard. All right. You also probably got a fork, I think. And then last but not least, whoa, sorry about that. I think everybody got some string. Is that right?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
All of these things are used as textures on your plates, okay? So let me talk a little bit about that. The fork, you do not want to do this with your plate because that has the potential to put a hole in it. We don't want holes in our plate, okay? So don't stab it like you're going to pick it up and eat it. You use your fork, as you can see from my fork here, you use your fork like this to make, almost like you're making a pie crust, right? Or you can use your fork to sort of draw along the plate. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that as I draw like that, it sort of makes, can you see the marks that leaves, right? So you can use your fork to draw and make patterns that way. You can do the same thing, by the way, with your knives, right? You can use the serrated edge to make marks. Again, just don't saw it. You can also use the end of your knife or your fork, as you see that I've done here, to actually draw and make patterns, okay? So that's the fork. Then we've got the cardboard, and the cardboard gives us 2 different ways that we can make patterns. The first is you've got your corrugated edge, and you can take that and actually stamp it on. After you've rolled ink on your plate, you can stamp it, and that corrugated edge will actually make a pattern on your plate. But then the other cool thing about cardboard is that it's corrugated, sandwiched between 2 pieces of paper. And I've already peeled this one, but if you peel off the top layer of paper, then you've got this very textural thing that you can use as a stamp. And it'll leave some paper behind, and you can either keep that there, or you can tear it away, or you can do like I'm doing with my fingernail and you know, indent that, you know, just sort of cut it, right? And then I'll show you the one that I've been using a lot in the class. This is a little piece, and then when you've got ink on your plate, you just use the corrugated cardboard like a stamp, okay? And a lot of things work like that as a stamp. I brought a couple of other things to the table just to show you what I've used. I've got this, some of this ribbon here. It's like the stuff that you, like drape on a Christmas tree or something like that, right? And this works really well. You can either press it down with your hands, or when you've got ink on there, you can take your brayer and roll this down, and that'll impart a pattern on your page. Another thing that I've done is this placemat literally stopped me in my tracks when I was walking through Walmart one day. It's a rubber placemat, and it's just got the greatest pattern in it. Can everybody see that? And so a lot of times what I'll do is like I'll ink the plate, and then I'll take this and lay it down and, you know, brayer that down and then pull that up, and that pattern will be on there. But I'll tell you what else is cool is on some of my larger plates, I'm going to put my large plate in the view here. On some of the larger plates I've done things like this where I put the entire placemat down, right? And you know, rub it down either with my hands or the brayer, and then you pull it up, and the whole plate is covered with a pattern like this. So anything that has a pattern in it can be used to impart a pattern to your plate. okay? Last but not least, we've got the string, okay? And the string is what we're really gonna focus on right now because the pattern situation is very simple, right? You take something with a pattern, you press it onto your plate, and it's gonna impart a pattern. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna use the string, and this is the first of our amazing ghost print opportunities, okay? So what I want you to do, if everybody's with me, is I want you to go ahead and roll out some ink on your plate, whatever color you want, or you can blend the color completely, completely up to you. I think I'm gonna do something with black because I haven't used any black today. And I'm gonna make it pretty thin. So there's my ink. I'm gonna just dot it around. And roll it out. All right, and then when you've got, whoa, when you got it rolled out, do your brayer on your brayer cleaning paper. And if anybody needs to go wash off their brayer, go for it. Get it clean, come back, start fresh. And what I want you to do is I want you to take either your cardboard or your fork and do something, make a little pattern with that. It's completely up to you what you want to do. I'm gonna actually take mine, I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna use that. And I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna press it into the side of my plate one time. Can everybody see what that did? See how it pulled ink off? And so now what'll happen is where the ink is gone will not go onto my print, and where the ink is left, that will go onto my print. So that's just how you use these as a pattern maker. And here, I know you guys don't have these, but I'll just show you what my placemat does also, because it's just really cool. So you take the placemat, you lay it down, you roll it out with the brayer a little bit, and then it leaves this great pattern. And see, there's the ink that it picked up. So I highly encourage you to go wander around your house and find things that will impart patterns and play with those. But what we're going to do now is I want everybody to take their string, okay? And you're going to lay your string on your plate. And you can do it in an intentional way, or you can do it in a random way. It's completely up to you. Somebody in the class the other day, she posted these to Instagram that night. She actually laid her string out in patterns that made these great little wire Calder-esque animals. So she made a camel and she made a little penguin. So you can try and do that. You can just go completely random. You can use it as stripes. You can make a spiral. You can even fray your string and pull it apart and use the frayed stuff. It's totally up to you. But what's amazing about string is not only what you get with your initial print, but more importantly is what you get with your ghost print with the string. So that's why I want you to do this now, is because we're gonna get some really killer ghost prints out of this. So I'm just gonna lay my string out random because I don't know that I have the ability to create a penguin. But if anybody else wants to create something, go for it, man, because it's awesome. All right, so I've laid that out, and I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so I've got a little more room for air. And then I'm gonna take a piece of paper. All right, and I'll register it. I got a ton of ink on my registration page. If you also do, feel free to take a paper towel and clean it, or make another page your registration page. And now you're gonna start rubbing, and you'll see that with this string, you get it's 3D, right? And so it's going to be a very different feeling when you massage your paper. I see one of you already, oh yeah, that looks great. Very nice. Oh, really nice. Everybody's doing great already. Don't take your string off yet, okay? So you're going to rub, rub, rub. And what you will notice when you pull your print is that basically the string creates a silhouette, right? It's just a silhouette of the three-dimensional hole that the string made. And then you can also see what my cardboard did and what my placemat did. So that's kind of cool stuff there. All right, when everybody's with me.
Sorry to interrupt. We had a request to mute.
Say that one more time.
We had a request if people can mute.
Oh, sure. Why don't everybody mute while we're working?
Thanks.
All right, so now what I want you to do, I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this, is I want everybody to carefully pull your string off your plate. And hopefully your plate looks like mine. And not only do you have the hole where the string was, but you have two lines on either side of the string, and you even see the pattern that the string made on your plate. Hopefully everybody's looks like that. And this is where we get to make the really killer ghost prints, okay? This is the first of your killer ghost prints. And you're gonna take, I'm gonna do mine on this guy again. So you register your paper, lay it down, rub, 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 and you wanna really make sure to massage this well because you want all this to come up really nicely on your paper. So if you feel like your hand isn't doing it, everybody go get your fancy wooden spoon.
I didn't get a good ink distribution on this one.
Okay, so hopefully everybody's got theirs, and when you're ready to pull your print, you pull your print, and that has now created its own, theoretically, hopefully, its own killer print, ghost print of the remains of your string. Oh yeah, everybody's looking good. That's looking great, great, great. Everybody's great. Nice, looking good. Awesome. Awesome, everybody happy? Thumbs up, we're doing okay? Anybody got any questions? If everybody's muted now, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat. What I was saying about the ink on your registration page, if you have as much ink as I do, it maybe behooves you to go ahead and just put another page down as your registration page. Although it won't be registered, you know, you need to make sure it's in the same exact spot. The other thing you could do is you could take a paper towel and just rub it until it's dry, right? And that actually works pretty well, just to make sure this doesn't get onto your fine art that you're making. Okay, so I'm gonna do that just to show you that that sort of works. So rub it, rub it, rub it, and then theoretically that won't impart itself onto your piece. All right, so how's everybody doing? Everybody feeling good about what you got? Okay, so what we are going to do now is we're gonna take a break. And what you can do during this break is you can take a break completely, relax. You can keep printing, whatever you want to do. But what I want everybody to do is go outside in your yard and come back with a couple of leaves. All right? And I want you to get some different ones. And I want you to get some that have cool shapes and patterns. And I want you to get some that are just boring leaves, but maybe have some cool veins on them. But what I want everybody to do is come back when, why don't we say 10 minutes? So it's 2:12 right now. Why don't we say we'll all see each other back here at 2:22, and we'll all have some leaves in hand. And if you want to stick around and keep printing, go for it. This is also a good time to wash off your brayer and or your plate if you want to, and maybe clean up your area. My area is a disaster zone, so I'm gonna do that too. All right, so I'll see everybody back here. It's 2:13 now, so I'll see everybody back here at 2:23. Have a good break.
Doing great, Lori.
Alice, does my internet seem to be working okay today?
Yes, so it seems like right there at the end a little bit, like when you were doing the stuff with the with the string, I can't get my
Yeah.
words out. You could see the video, your voice was a little choppy,
Mm.
but it wasn't like it was on Thursday.
Okay, good. Our internet in this house is so bad.
Yeah. And I think obviously people are probably depending on it even a little bit more than
Exactly.
usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, want to hear a report on the bees?
Yes, absolutely.
So everybody, I was telling Alice, Alice before the class began, I was out on my front porch today, and all of a sudden my husband heard it first. There was a gigantic swarm of bees in the yard across the street from us, and they were sort of coming over into our yard, but it was like this huge cloud of bees just hanging over the neighbor's front yard. And so I reached out to a beekeeper friend of mine and said, what do I do? And she said, you go to apparently the Mecklenburg Beekeepers Association. On their website, they keep a list of swarms. And so you go to the list of swarms and you find someone who's in your zip code and you call them and they'll come collect the bees. So I just went out during our break and there's a beekeeper in the front yard and they're capturing the bees or collecting all the bees.
That's so cool.
So,
Is your beekeeper friend Janelle?
no, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. I got in touch with my friend Cress, who is, she's one of the owners of the Common Market.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Janelle Dunlap, she was the curator for the tarmac.
Oh yeah.
For the resident residency thing. She's also a beekeeper.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Cress responded to me, I texted, I was like, what do I do? And she's like, go to the website, find the swarm page, and you can look by zip code. And there were like 3 people who had my zip code. So we called them and one of them showed up. And as a bonus, it turns out that their next door neighbor, my neighbor across the street, is actually getting ready to start trying to be a beekeeper. So she's all suited up too and working on learning how to collect a swarm.
Nice.
So Wild Kingdom on Thomas Avenue.
Yeah.
All right, so most people coming back. There are a few people whose cameras are off, so I can't see if you're back, but it looks like most people are back. I especially like the person who's on a Caribbean island.
I was just about to say, well, Sally's at the beach.
Yeah, Sally, we're all jealous of you, for sure. I have a friend from college who lives in California, in Los Angeles, and our college gang has been doing weekly cocktail evenings, and she has little kids, and so it's easier for her to leave her house to do the cocktail evenings. So we're all sitting in our house, and she's out walking around like oceanfront and palm trees, except like you, except she's literally walking in front of palm trees, which is, I'm very jealous of her. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you all have some leaves. I'm gonna show you the ones that I gathered. I have a cypress tree out front, so I got that. I got these off of something. I got some Lenten rose leaves, and then I got a bunch of leaves from my tulip magnolia. And what I wanna show you is that some of these leaves are gonna work really nicely as silhouettes, like this, because it's got this serrated edge, right? And then this obviously is going to be a cool silhouette. But then also, I want you to think about these not unlike the way the string imparted a pattern onto our plates. These leaves are also going to impart a pattern, and these are going to create some really cool things for us. And we're actually going to do, this is going to be sort of the most complicated thing that once again, I'm going to explain it to you. and it's going to be really complicated sounding coming out of my mouth, but in practice, it will make sense once you get going, okay? So this, what we're going to do with the leaves is we're going to actually make 2 prints each guaranteed, okay? With your first one, we're going to do exactly what we've done up till now. You're going to ink your plate, you're going to place your leaves on the plate, and you're going to pull a print. And that is going to be, it's going to be basically, you're going to be using the leaves as masks. And so you're going to end up with silhouettes. You're going to end up with a print that has holes in it, okay? Then you're going to remove your leaves. You're going to ooh and ah over the cool patterns that the leaves left. And you're going to take another, you're going to do each of these with blank sheets of paper. So you're going to pull your ghost print, which is going to have patterns on it. Not unlike what happened to us with the string, where you got the pattern of the string in there. So you're gonna have 2 prints. You're gonna have your original print and you're gonna have your ghost print, all right? Then you're gonna clean off your plate. You're gonna ink your plate again. You're gonna place your leaves again in either the same place, close but not perfect, or completely differently. And then I'm gonna have you pull your prints in reverse. So the piece of paper that was your ghost print before, that's going to be your initial print. And the piece of paper that was your initial print before, that's going to be your ghost print. Everybody got it? Okay. Sounds a little complicated, but I promise it'll make sense when we do it, okay? And I want you to think a little bit in terms of colors that work nicely together. So maybe a light and a dark, maybe a tint of the same color. So like maybe you do a dark blue and a light blue, or just colors that are going to work well together, like green and gold, or, you know, red and orange. However you want to do it, just don't do like black and dark blue, right? We definitely want to be able to see what we're getting, okay? So I am going to do that. I'm going to do actually the same color, but tinted. So I'm going to do a light blue and a dark blue. And my reasoning for that, I will give you guys a fun story, is that my husband and I both went to Duke, and one of my daughters has committed to attending Chapel Hill. So I'm going to make a piece that's going to be the Duke Blue Devils and the Tar Heels all in one print. Okay, so I'll do dark blue and light blue. So my first one is, I'm going to hit it with the dark blue. Oh, there's a little yellow in there too. So we got some ink down on the page. And where are you? Yeah, you're dry. I'm gonna roll the ink out. And after you roll out your ink, you're gonna place your leaves in an interesting arrangement. Totally up to you. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tulip magnolias because they have such a funky shape, but I'm going to lay them down in different ways. Any of those. And then maybe I'll put my cypress in there because that's just always cool. All right. And whenever you're ready, you're going to get a sheet of paper, register it. And zoom out a little bit, and massage, massage, massage. And again, what this is going to do is this is going to create silhouettes. So you are going to end up with white shapes that represent all the leaves. But I want you to really press down on the leaves because I want them to impart their patterns onto your plate, okay? And feel free to unmute if you have any questions or anything you want to point out or say, or, you know, anything. Whenever you're ready, after you've massaged well, you're going to pull your print. And there's my first print. Okay, so you've got leaf, 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 and you've got the outlined silhouette of the cypress. So you're going to set that aside, and then you're going to pull off your leaves. Okay. And can everybody see? I'm sure yours all look the same, but you see how you get the pattern from the leaves is put onto your plate. So that now when we pull our second print, what that's going to give us is a cool print where it actually looks like you've taken the leaf pattern and you've used that to make your print. So if anybody is moving at the same speed as I am, go ahead and show me what you've got. I'd love to see. Nice. I see some good silhouettes. Looking great. Great, 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 great. Maple leaves make the best shapes, don't they? They're just so awesome. Yeah, everybody's looking good. Looking great. So now we're going to do this again, except we're going to print in reverse. So for your first print, oh, that looks great. That's like a fern. Those are really nice. Very nice there. So for your first print, you're going to print on this and you're going to get the silhouettes. And then your second, your ghost print, you're going to pull on this sheet. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody unclear? Speak now. This is a good time to tell me.
Give us that one more. Could you go through it one more time?
Absolutely. So
Thank
what you should have now is you should have two prints, okay? You should have the first print you made, which gave us some pretty strong silhouettes, right? The second print you made, theoretically, should have given you some leaf patterns, right? Like you actually printed the leaves. So this was first, this was second. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna do the exact same thing. You're gonna ink your plate, you're gonna lay leaves down on your plate, and you're gonna pull prints, but you're gonna do it in reverse order. You're gonna use this piece of paper that was your ghost print before, and that's gonna be the first print you pull. And for your ghost print, you're gonna pull that on your first print from before. Does that make sense?
So use the same colors?
No, use different colors.
Okay.
Use different colors so that you end up with something, so you end up being able to see the two different prints that you've made. So I'm gonna use mostly white on mine. And you can use the same leaves, you can use different leaves, it's completely up to you. And I'm gonna add a tiny bit of blue to that. And my goal is to get a very light blue out of this. All right, so I've got my light blue, and now I'm gonna lay my leaves down. I'm gonna do different leaves this time instead of doing the same leaves for mine. Lay them down like that. And I'm gonna lay this guy down like that. And that, and then I'm gonna use my cypress again because I'm just a sucker for how the cypress looks. Okay. So now I'm going to take my ghost print from before and I'm going to print with that. So I'm going to register it, lay it down, really give it a good massage. And then here's what we've got. So we end up with, you see the silhouettes from the new print give way to the printed pieces from the previous print. And then I'll pull my leaves off and their patterns are left. And now I'm going to take my first print from before, which was all silhouette, and I register that and give it a massage. And now that's how my second print looks. So now I had the prints from the second print overlaying the silhouettes from the previous first print. And so that's how we end up with these two interesting looking prints. How's everybody else's working? Is it doing what I was hoping it would do? Looking good?
Yes.
Everybody's looking good?
Wonderful. Yes, nice, Ron. Diane.
Fantastic. Everybody's looking great. Nice, very nice. Looking great. Everybody's doing so well. I'm so proud of you all. Anybody else got anything to show? Or are you just working away? Keep working. That's what I want you to do. So now here we are. It's 2:30. Oh, that looks awesome. The yellow and is that like a purple? Is that what you did? Yeah, that looks killer. Very, very cool. Very nice. Oh yeah, I see yours in the with the grays. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I can't see your names on here. But yeah, that looks great. The maple leaves with the sort of gray maple leaves, y'all, yours looks good. And you in the middle with the apron and the orange and red, that looks awesome. Or sort of yellow and red, the maple, yeah, looking great. Very nice.
Nice, Cheryl. Susie, this look wonderful.
All right, so it is 2:36 and we have 24 more minutes to play. So you guys can ask questions or you can just work away and do your thing. I am gonna see if I can put some music on. Not sure if
And
this will
you
work.
guys can also, there's the chat bar if you want to put questions in there too. You are more than welcome to.
Let's see. All right, you know what I'm gonna play? I am going to play Armando from the McCall Center's What Do I Listen To playlist.
Oh, I'm excited to hear this.
All right, can you hear?
Yes.
So if everybody doesn't know, Armando, who's the marketing director for the McCall, he sends out a daily newsletter called What Do I Listen To Today, where he gives you a song to listen to, just one song. And what I've been doing is I've been compiling all of those into a playlist. So if you want to subscribe.
Does he now?
What's that?
I said, does he now? This is something I did not know about
You
my
didn't know this? Yeah.
coworker, Armando. Yeah.
So it's, hold on, I'll get it. I'm going to get the email. Find today's song.
Well, Armando is a DJ or used to be a DJ in Miami. Yeah. That is the reason why he's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I am finding it. I think it's what. No, I'm looking for it so I can share the link with y'all. It's already moved into. Here we go. There we go. All right. I am going to put all right. Did that just go in the chat?
I don't see it.
My screens are all weird. Oh, there we go. Wait a minute. I can't figure it out. Alice, I'm just going to text you the link. For some reason, it's not letting me chat.
No problem.
Okay, there's the link.
So, yeah, okay, I think I heard it just come through. I was just thinking, like, I know you've had people grab leaves. What would a bloom look like? Like, would it be better if you just sort of poked it apart to try to do
Yeah,
that?
it absolutely could work. I mean, leaves are great because they're so solid, right? But a bloom could absolutely work. I would highly encourage you from this point on to experiment with all different types of textures and just see what they look like. I mean, I have gotten some really good looking things out of very unusual textures. Like even, I'm going to show you something as an example. I'll roll out some blue real quick. So even as simple as, oh, it's picking it up, of course it is. Let's put some red in there. That blue ink is troublemaker, isn't it? Okay.
That's different.
Whoa.
Oops, come back here.
All right, so like here's another example of something that makes some neat patterns is like the paper towels that came in your kit. You can even use that, like you see all that texture, right? That will actually impart texture into your print if you use that as a stamp, and it makes for a really cool background. So you could do something like that. Or another variation is to take a piece of paper or a piece of paper towel and ball it up, right? And then find like the rough parts of the balled up and use that as a stamp. And that actually can make some interesting things. So you can take all those, so take those two. And then there's another, like you may have something like this lying around your house. Like if you've done other types of art, this is just like a stencil, right? And I could put this in here like this and roll that out, right? And that's gonna put a little pattern in there. And then when I'm done with that, maybe I'll throw some masks on here. Something like this. And then let's pull a print. So what we're getting here is not only the masks that I put down, but also the patterns that I put down with the paper towel and then with that stencil thing. So see, look at all the patterns that come through. Like you can't see them on the plate, but that's just from patting the paper towel down. That right there, that's from the balled up paper towel, and that's from the stencil, and then my mask is on top of that. So like anything can give you a cool texture or pattern to play with that you can then do something with later. A lot of times what I'll do with those plastic stencils, I'll show you another thing. Let me pull this ghost real quick and then I'll show you another way to use those plastic stencils is you ink your plate then as one of your layers, you can lay that stencil down and actually leave it there. So I'm going to take my stencil that I have, and I'm just going to actually just lay it right in the middle of the plate here like this. And then maybe throw a mask on top of that, just for fun, because why not? And then maybe a little curlicue something or other. Okay. And then find something here. I'll take this. I'll use this one. This was my first string print. And I'll lay that guy down. Rub, rub, rub. And whenever you use anything three-dimensional or that's not as flat as paper, you want to just make sure you're getting in there, you know, so that you don't waste your shot. And then when you pull your print, that's what those stencils can do, right? So again, stencils, a hole creates a solid on your print, right? Which is so cool looking.
Lori,
And
where
then
do you
you pull
find
that
those?
off. And these, the great thing about these plastic ones is that they just wash off. You throw them in your sink and then they're instantly clean.
Where do you find those?
I got this, actually, I think that I got a few of these in a set from Jelly Plate when I ordered one of these types of plates the very first time. But you can get these, there's a whole row of these, a whole section of these at Michael's. All different shapes, all different sizes. You can do letters, you can get numbers, you can get flowers, just anywhere that you would get stencils. If you wanted to paint with stencils, those things work great on these prints also. I will say that the grids of letters don't work the way you want them to because you can't get individual letters, right? But you could use them as like to get a letter pattern if you wanted to have A, B, C, D, half of E, F, G, H, you know, like that. Yeah. But it won't work. You can't like use those stencils to spell out your name. But I will show you, hold on. Take one of my prints from one of my other days and use that for my ghost here. So then that's what you get from the ghost from using the stencil. Again, you know, where the lines were and where the, it just stencils just can create some really cool, unexpected things going on. I was just gonna show you something else. Oh, letters. I wanna show you something cool about using letters. I'm just gonna keep using red since that's what's on my plate. So let's say, remember I mentioned before that if you're gonna do something with letters, you have to do it backwards, right? Because the print you're gonna pull is gonna be, you know, wrong reading, or it's gonna print backwards. So if you lay down a letter that isn't readable both directions, like my first, you know, my name starts with an L, and an L has a backwards way and a forward way. If you wanted to do something like that, here, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut a really quick L mask. Where are my scissors? Well, maybe not. So I'll cut out an L.
Laurie, can you talk a little bit about color mixing? Because, you know, we have, you know, some primary colors here and extras. How do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The color mixing on the plate itself is really easy to do. You can do it a bunch of different ways. Like I've got red on my plate right now, and what I'll do is I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow. And there are a few ways to do it, okay? You could just put some yellow on there like that. And you know, yellow and red make orange. And so if I start rolling this out, it'll instantly start blending with the red and give me some orange. The other thing that's neat about mixing directly onto the plate is that you can use it to create like sunsets and stuff, like, you know, like gradations or you know, blends, so that it is, that's pulling off a little bit. So I'm gonna wet my brayer, and then hopefully that'll start putting the paint back on the plate. There we go. So if you wanted something that looked like a gradient, like red fading into orange, fading into yellow, you can do that too directly on the plate. But the mixing, you know, you take red, you take yellow, and you get orange. And then what you can do with that is you can then tint it. You can add some black to make it darker. You can add some white to make it lighter, however you want to do that. And the beauty is you can, like I said, you can do that all right on the plate. Additionally, you can do that mixing on a palette next to you, right? If you don't want to, if you really want it to be precise, if you are like, no, I don't want to chance it, I want the exact color I want, then that's cool also, right? And then you can mix on a plate, you put your, you know, mix your colors just like you would on a palette, and then put that on using a knife later. However you want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do my L here. So I've got this L, and if I lay it down this way, right reading, my print is going to come up wrong reading. So I want to lay it down wrong reading, okay? So that then when I pull my print, pull the print, and now my print comes up right reading. All right, so if you do anything with words or letters, you just need to remember to do it backwards on your plate. Another cool thing, I'm trying to sort of throw in all possibilities for you guys before the class ends. Another neat thing you can do, which I alluded to before, is you can use the wrong side of a paintbrush or the bottom side of these plastic knives, or what I find to work really nicely are Q-tips. And you can use these to actually draw on your plate, right? So like you might take this Q-tip and draw, you know, whatever you want. Okay, so I just drew some lines on there. And then I'm out of white paper, so I'm going to use the blue. Massage. And pull your print, and you end up with lines. So that's pretty cool too. And the same thing would go for this. If you're going to write something, you just need to remember to write backwards, not forwards, because otherwise, you know, it's got to be wrong reading on your plate in order to come out right reading on your print. I'll take my Q-tip and write something.
So we're almost at a 5-minute warning, unfortunately.
Oh, sure. Is everybody going? My family's going for a walk. A government sanctioned 6 foot apart. Clear the sidewalks, everybody. Neighborhood walk. All right, so I wrote backwards on that so that I could say very messily, thank you to everyone.
Thanks,
Oh,
Laurie.
that's great.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun and a great use of my afternoon. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks.
So just to use up the last couple of, last little bit of time, I'm gonna stop the sharing and bring it back to me. I love being giant on your screen. And what I want to tell you is that I would love to see the work that you guys create. If y'all are on Instagram, please follow me at Laurie Smithwick on Instagram. And Alice, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, there we go. It's in the chat. And my website is also lauriesmithwick.com. And my email is either hello@lauriesmithwick.com or lauriesmithwick@gmail.com. I try and keep things easy. But if anybody wants the recipe for making homemade plates,
I do.
I'm happy to send it to you. It's already written down. It's very easy. I can have it to you in, later today.
Can you just send it to us?
What's that?
Can you just send it to all of us?
Alice, do you
Yeah.
have the ability to send that out to everybody?
I do. I have everyone's email addresses since you guys registered. So yeah, we can send that.
Good. So I'll send that to you in a little bit, Alice, and then you can just forward it to everybody. And then everybody, please, please, please. I am I'm going to be in that class with Chris Clamp, taking the, the drawing class next week. I am not untouchable somebody. I'm a nobody and would love to talk with y'all. And so do not hesitate if you have questions, if things aren't working away from this class, if you want to try something and you want to know if I've ever tried it, if you just want to show me something amazing that you created, I want to hear from you, really and truly. So connect with me on Instagram, email me, show me what you've done, ask me questions. All of the above, any of the above, just consider me, a new friend.
And somebody asked about storing the plates between the plastic. We at McCall Center, I always put the plastic back on. I don't know if it matters.
So let me show you. You can keep it between the plastic forever and ever, and that keeps it, not only does it keep it air, it keeps it from drying out. It won't actually dry out, but it keeps it airtight. It also keeps, if you, like I, have pets, it keeps your pet's hair off of it, which is a great, right? Like I have cat hair all over my house. You can also store it on paper, but I want to show you this. If everybody pulls their plate, I don't know what state you're at. Can everybody see, I just pulled this off my registration sheet, and can you see that there's a little bit of a line here from where the plate was? Remember how I said at the beginning that the plates all have like some mineral oil or something in them? If you keep your plate on paper, which is a great way to store it between sheets of paper, it will impart that harmless mineral oil onto your scratch paper. But that mineral oil is not so harmless if you accidentally set this down on something that matters to you. So just be careful. Don't set it down like on one of your gorgeous works of art that you made today, because you will end up with that mineral oil, really light stain. But yeah, you can keep it on paper, between pieces of paper. You can keep it in the plastic that came in your kit. Or like I said before, a lot of my homemade ones, which don't come with plastic, I keep those. Let me move my phone out of the way. I keep those on placemats, right? So I get these placemats for $1 at Walmart, and I just keep this is one of my homemade plates, and I just keep it always on this plastic. And what I have upstairs is I have a lot of these placemats just stacked so that they keep each other dry. And again, the cat hair. You always wanna keep the pet hair and your own personal hair. If you're like me, my own hair is also everywhere in our house.
So what's
So
the best way to clean it again?
water, just throw it under the sink.
Okay.
Take your plate and, cause you're gonna end up with stuff like on the edges there, right? Just put it in the sink. I have one of my plates actually is really big. It's the size of a full sheet pan, right? So it's like 19 by 24. And I'll literally just put that in my shower and run the shower on it for a few minutes. And that will get and this ink is totally non-toxic and safe for your drains and everything. So when you're done today, take the plate, clean it off under the sink and then stick it back in between the two plastic sheets or put it on a piece of paper, whichever you prefer.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Got dirty hands.
Yes.
And I highly recommend everybody who's gonna keep doing gel printing, get yourself a spray bottle, okay? You can get these for $1 at the dollar store. This one is from Target, right? You can get it, just a basic spray bottle. I keep this on my table. It's right next to where I'm working at all times. And I just use that much more than running to the sink. You can use that to clean off your plate, right? You just spray it on the plate like that and rub it off with a paper towel, right? You can use it to clean off your hands. It's just very helpful to have that water next to you all the time. So I highly recommend that too.
Okay.
Hands.
Okay, so Laurie, I just reclaimed host. Thank you so much. And so happy that you guys could all be here today. Me and my dachshund Rose say thank you, and we hope that you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you all so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing what you create.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks, Laurie.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Bye.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, I do. Leave the meeting.